members of the human family. Today is the 8th of May, 2024. I am Othmane Wagdi in Mohammedia, Morocco. Welcome to the General Durability Podcast. My guest today is a reprogramming expert, and he is here to help us in our quest for knowledge, ultimately self-knowledge. Welcome, Mr. Sanders. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Shukran jazeelan. It's
Yeah,
great to be here. And yeah, I mean, let's just have some fun. This is a nice opportunity. Thank you.
yeah, great. Can you please tell us a bit about yourself and how it came to be that you engage with brain reprogramming?
All right, that's a really, really good question. Can you hear I have an English accent?
Yes, yes, yes. Not an extreme one, but a mild one.
No, no, that's right. So I was born in England, in the UK, and at the age of 6, my parents took us out to Singapore. We traveled to Singapore for 3 years. And then the age of 10, we left England, we left Singapore, and we went to Northern Ireland, so 60 to 65, and then back to England, and then a lot of travel in between. The reason I mention that is because having such a big input, cultural input at a very young age, it changes you. It really does. It changes you. And you don't see the things the way that everyone else does when you're quotes back home in England. And that can be a disadvantage or an advantage. In my case, I turned it into an advantage. And I'm a multidisciplinist. I'm primarily a voice actor.
Because I can do funny voices.
But
Yeah,
that doesn't
that's a good one. That's a good one.
but it doesn't pay the bills, you know. It's like, oh, that's very clever. You know, can you do some more? Well, you know, I'm a very poor man, you know. So I did electrical engineering, and although I surprised myself because I got a first-class honors in electrical engineering, and my company at the time, British Aircraft, offered me a PhD in engineering or a master's in a closely related field. And I didn't want to do more engineering. As an artist, it didn't suit me. I liked it. I mean, it was clever. It was like a puzzle. So I took applied psych or developmental psychology, industrial psychology, lots of skills, lots of methodological issues that you have to deal with. And in particular, how circuits work, how brain circuits work. Because my electrical engineering background gave me insight into, well, what does a healthy neural circuit look like and what does it not look like? What's an unhealthy neural circuit start to look like?
Yes, because there is a lot of similarities with the brain.
Yeah, there are. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but it's a handy place to start. And I think as long as you realize you're working with a cartoon sketch of reality, it doesn't, you don't get into too much trouble, right? Because you know you have an incomplete description. Now I got my my master's in applied psych, my undergraduate in electrical engineering, and I figured, well, it's time for me to somehow fuse them together. So I took a PhD in cybernetics. And for those of you who can't quite remember what cybernetics is, it's the study of large, messy, probabilistic, goal-oriented systems, which again is another mouthful. It basically means how do systems steer themselves? How do our brains steer itself? How does an economy steer itself? And so it's quite a subtle. It's a very subtle discipline. In fact, some people call it the great unfinished scientific project because it's always evolving. But having a PhD in cybernetics now gave me the opportunity to look at this question of, can the brain change itself? Because I needed to know that it could change itself, because I failed to mention that I was born with a horrendous case of eczema. And I'll tell you, when you're a young man and you have eczema and you're in love with Valerie or Yvonne, whoever just walked by with a short skirt. It's the most depressing thing to come across because they're always washing their hair. So I had a real deep need to find out, A, can the brain change itself? And B, can I change my brain? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can.
Yes.
The thing is that in the West, the danger with the Western thinking is that it's very arrogant, very arrogant.
No,
Nothing.
I can assure you of that. I lived in many locations in the West. I am a Westerner, and I can, yeah, there is a lot of arrogance, especially the this in what we call scientism.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
there
yes.
is this word I throw it. Yeah,
Thank you, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, there is, there is. And and the thing is, I've been a student of yoga since the age of 19 and a half. I'm now 75. So although I'm not a very good yoga student, I've got a lot of time under my belt. And I can tell you, the yogis 5, 6, 7, 8,000 years ago figured out that the brain could change itself.
Yeah,
But
they are masters at it.
yeah, they are. They are. This idea of neuroplasticity, that the brain or the neural substrate is reprogrammable or can program itself, first came out really in 1972 with the rat studies, where they stuck a bunch of rats in what are called enriched environments, where they had lots of things to play with and so on. And they're sort of the twin mates, if you like. They were the control group. They were they were fed. They were in a very plain environment, and they had nothing really to do all day. Unfortunately, when when the end of the experiment came, I love this word coming up now, they were sacrificed. They were sacrificed in the name of science. They found when they took the sections of the two rats' brains, the one had a lot of dendritic structure, very, very complex brain, where they had been playing, where they had to solve puzzles and problems, whereas in the other case, there was very little dendritic. And that's where the Westerners gave themselves permission to finally believe what the yogis knew all along, that yes, the brain can change itself.
Okay, great. We take it from here. The brain is 100% can change itself. I am my own experience, I know that, and I'm very mindful and aware of it. Uh, Let's dive into some details. For example, in today's
Okay.
world, we have
Yes.
a lot of crises. People talk all the time about climate change, corona, epidemic, wars, etc., are producing anxiety. People around the world, especially young people,
Yes.
have suffer from anxiety, stress, burnout, depression.
Yes.
I saw a lot of useful things in your website. Can you
Thank you.
give us practical yeah, guidelines, some things to follow to reduce anxiety, to reduce stress in easy ways?
Yes. Yes. Mental discomfort is more and more common, as you and I both know. And you've put your finger on probably the most frequent, although, they're sort of tied for first place, things like depression. But I think a good place to start is anxiety. And what I look for is, now let me just say this. You don't need devices or artifacts to actually interrupt discomfort patterns that you're carrying, all right? The difficulty is it takes a lot of practice to be able to do it. So I have, over the years, discovered that there are a number of tools that we can use inexpensively, use them at home around the $500 mark. No, I do not sell them. but the most common and the most useful of these tools at the moment is a thing called cranial electrostimulation. Cranial electrostimulation.
What is this?
So cranial electrostimulation is a small box. And in fact, one second. Can you find me this program? So what this device is that I'm going to talk about is a frequency generator that generates frequencies in the range that our brains can detect. In particular, this device hangs on your ears, and you only need to do it 20 minutes a day, 25, maybe 45 minutes a day. And what it is, see, these are carbon electrodes, carbon electrode. And then what I do is I set this device on and I set it up. And what is running de-stresses my brain, helps my brain relax. And it helps my brain feel good. So in other words, it interrupts the patterns that most people get trapped in of ain't it awful, and worry, and it's going, no, I don't know what's going on, it's going, well, get with me. Now all I need to do is I just need to put my CES device on, and there are about 4 or 5 of them, very good ones that you can buy internationally. Don't spend more than $500 or $600, ladies and gentlemen, because they're all the same. And what it does is it talks to your amygdala. Your amygdala is part of your fear system. You need an amygdala, otherwise you would be dead. You couldn't judge risk. Unfortunately, in our modern environment, your amygdala can get turned on and stay on because it builds a cybernetic loop between itself and your adrenal glands. Now you self-simulate yourself with adrenaline, and the thing goes round and round and round until you go crazy or you have adrenal exhaustion. By using a cranial electrostimulation device, you interrupt that, give yourself the chance to get rid of the adrenaline byproducts and now begin to see the world sanely. That's probably the quickest and easiest way of dealing with, I would say, 40 to 50% of all the mental discomfort on the planet today. Wow, that's a pretty bold statement, Dr. Saunders. Yeah, it's because I run an online clinic and I get the chance to see these effects practically every day. So I hope that helps.
It helps reduce anxiety, stress. What about depression?
Yes. Let's talk a bit about depression. There are different forms of depression. Some forms of depression actually yield very nicely to cranial electrostimulation, but not all of them. So in this case, this particular device has different electrodes. It's too complicated to show you right now, but it has different electrodes. And the technique we use there with these different electrodes is called, you ready for another big one? Here we go, transcranial direct current stimulation, or TDCS. In using TDCS, what we do now is we address the Brodmann areas, the appropriate Brodmann areas responsible for depression. And a Brodmann area, ladies and gentlemen, is an area, a sub-area on the scalp of your brain, on the top of your brain, which deals with different types of computations. Let's say hearing, or feeling where your arm is, or planning to make a movement. So it's those circuits, those neural circuits, that you need to interrupt so that sanity can regain its awareness. So that's how I deal with depression most of the time.
You know better than I do. The brain regenerates itself each day. Millions of cells die, millions of cells are reborn. How can we help the brain stay healthy going into day-to-day life? And yeah, because new cells need minerals, nourishment, sports. What can we do to guarantee a healthy brain?
That's an excellent question. 1 second, please. So this device really interrupts dysfunction in the brain and helps stabilize function, but it doesn't feed the brain in the way that you're talking about. So the way to feed the brain is through photons, photonic energy. And when I first learned about this about 4 years ago, I thought this was crazy. How on earth can we photosynthesize? But it turns out we can. This is an infrared and near-infrared helmet. It's called transcranial photobiomodulation. No, I do not make these terms up. I have to put up with them, but that's what it's called, TPBM. What it's doing at the moment is it's feeding my frontal lobes and my cerebellum. I pair it with a gut pad so that I can now get a gut-brain axis, beneficial axis going. And I know you know about these things. Why don't you tell the audience what you know about this topic, Othmane?
Yes, it looks cool, by the way. It's
Thanks,
like a scene from a movie. I don't know about the technology. I just saw a little bit about it from Sarah Turner,
Yes.
but it didn't have time to go into the subject. I would like to know more about it later. What I know is there is a huge link between the gut and the brain, especially when it comes to consciousness. I have myself I had a huge problem during my poverty years. I was getting a lot of antibiotics, and they did interfere with the health of my gut microbiome. I
Yes.
understood that very late on, just a few years ago, and it caused me a lot of psychological issues, and
Yes.
also
Yes.
did interfere with my school and the university studies. So my brain was not that
Yes.
functional. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I
So in
understand.
short, when the gut is healthy and the brain is healthy, there is a good function. But if the gut is ruined or there is a neurological problem, it's dysfunctional. The system will be
Yes.
dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
So, oh, you're absolutely on the money. And what I would underline for the listeners is, if in the case of Othmane, you took too many antibiotics, in my case, I had no idea about sensible diet. The question then comes when you realize you've made a terrible mistake and now you've got to say sorry to your microbiome. How do you best do it? And I've found by using photobiomodulation plus a sensible diet, I mean, it's not one thing, exercise and so on, but by using a gut pad like this one, and there are a number of them on the market, you can heal your microbiome. And when your microbiome, when the bugs in your intestines are happy, they send happy chemicals up to your heart and to your brain through the vagus nerve. So you definitely want it. So really, it's not a single pronged attack, if you like, on feeding your brain. I would say use tools like cranial electrostimulation to calm your brain, and photobiomodulation, transcranial photobiomodulation, to feed your brain with photons.
That's great. I'm always interested in technology, but let us talk about what is the oldest, the nature. So for me, for example, I had a lot of anxiety. I was suffering from depression during the first few months of COVID. I was living in Germany at that time, and I had to move to Denmark to continue my study. It was a mess, so I had a lot to do for the university. I had to work to earn a living, and as a foreigner, it was difficult, lots of stress all the time. And then I moved home back to Morocco. What I did, I was yeah, in deep trouble, my psychological and neurological pathways. So I decided to go in nature, touch plants, go with feet, bar without shoes in the sand, swim in the ocean, like touching nature and being in nature, especially without a t-shirt under the sun. It did help me very, very much. Uh, does
Yes,
those
yes,
alternatives, because the waves have frequency. This is nature frequency. You have talked before about the technology. It activates through radiation the gut microbiome. I think the sun could do something like this. You just have to be
yeah,
between 12 and 2 o'clock when the sun is very warm, and you have to be good portion of your body has to be naked so that you can feel the effects. Yeah, that's was my personal
yes.
experience.
Yes, absolutely. Now let me just pick up on the time of day that you look at the sun and you get the sun's energy and rays. You're quite right. When the sun is close to midday, then you've got the maximum amount of energy. And you're right, just take off your t-shirt, whatever. There's two more important times of day. A lot of people who come to me have problems with their sleep. The sleep is disturbed, it's not satisfying sleep, they have stupid sleep habits and so on. You can clean up a lot of sleep problems by watching the sun rise and watching the sun set. And that, what it does is it helps your circadian rhythm lock on to the sun cycle. The circadian rhythm is, it means roughly a day. And so we have a lot of systems in our bodies that follow the sun at the order of about a day's worth, of roughly 24 hours. You can synchronize your sleep-wake pattern by looking at the sun, say, set, watch it set, watch the colors come up, watch the colors set as the sun goes behind the horizon. And then in the morning, you don't have to do it every day, but I'll tell you, it definitely helps. In the morning, what you want to do is you want to watch the sunrise. So what's happening is your brain is exposed to a wide range of frequencies of light changing very quickly. And that's the signal that your body locks onto.
That's great. Yeah, many ancient civilizations took the sun as a god.
Yeah, you can see why, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah. The dopamine system. Why I'm asking about this? Because today with social media is a big problem. You know, I see people around using social media like it's a social media is playing with the dopamine system of the
Yes, it
brain.
is. Yeah, it is.
And it's not
Yeah.
just social media, it's also like, for example, I do smoke cigarettes, and cigarettes also interfere with that.
Yeah.
Not just cigarettes, also bad habits. You call it addictions. Many scientists call it addiction. So addictions, bad
Yeah.
addictions, interfere with the dopamine reward mechanism. How can we get it back on track?
Okay. Okay.
Like, do you
Okay.
have some tools for us?
Yes. Yeah. So let me just set it up for you. So fasting, the ability to fast, is an important skill or behavior. Obviously, Muslims fast during Ramadan, and you know, I've got a bunch of Muslim friends who joke at just how bad it is, you know, and then they want to outdo each other as how awful, which I think is really unhelpful. What I do every full moon is I'll do a 24-hour water fast. And it isn't easy. It's easier now. I've been doing it for a number of years, but it definitely gets your attention, and it allows you to look at your behaviors, allows you to watch yourself. No, it's not fun, ladies and gentlemen, but it's very effective. In the same way, it's useful to have a data fast and just leave your phone at home. What? Oh, there you go. You see, you got the same kind of thing. So give yourself a 24-hour data fast, ladies and gentlemen. Turn your phone off, stick it in a drawer. You're going to hate me. You're going to hate Othmane for suggesting that we don't care. Give yourself a data fast and you will see how addicted you have become. In the same way, in the regular food fast, you realize just how much you run on automatic. You'll be shocked. Now, after that, if you can do one day, all right, if you can do one day, then what you want to do is extend it so that you're definitely in charge of it. Okay. I can tell you, because I used to work for a company called Bell Northern Research a long time ago. In 1987, when we were designing the early cell phones, the early smartphones, 1987, we knew that the random reinforcement schedule would be highly addictive. It's a Skinnerian stimulus response thing. We already knew that in 1987. In fact, a lot of us in the design says, I wouldn't want it. It means the boss can find you when you're in the washroom. Yeah, because you're untethered. So it's a very big topic. It is not trivial. I think people have to face their own personal responsibility. And most people don't. Most people will sit and they have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank you for mentioning fasting. Fasting, like Muslim culture, do it in a certain way. I've learned a lot from it because I'm born and raised in a Muslim culture, and I definitely suggest fasting as one of the best tools. You don't have to do it like Muslims. I think there is millions of ways you can do it. For example, I love the way the Romans put it. They were talking about voluntary hardship. For example, each day I will force myself to go for a huge walk, 10-kilometer walk or something like that. Even if I have a car, I will still force myself to walk instead of take the car. For example, I have the handy, I have the data, but I will force myself. I see my handy, I leave it, and I go for a walk. Consciously, because when you do that consciously, this is why I'm saying that, because I'm living with Muslims, and I know that many don't get the benefits, even when they are doing it, because they are not conscious of the benefits. And why are they doing it?
Quite right.
From a conscious perspective. So definitely voluntary hardship is a good one. You mentioned before the sunsets, for example. One of the voluntary hardships that I do is going for a swim during winter by the sunset. It's very beautiful, but you have to force yourself. The water is cold, the waves are big, and so it is when you are in the water, it's a war, but it's worth at the end. When you go out, you see the benefits. Your brain is new, your body, new cells form. And I think that's fasting, the combination of fasting, voluntary hardship, like you have said before, data fasting is a good one. And what we are saying at the moment, we say offline is the new bio. That's what we say at the moment. So we were talking about organic food, biological food. Now we say offline. So,
No, I love it. These cycles that there are naturally endless cycles. I mean, we live on a planet that's fed by the sun, which means we've got a constant energy input, and the energy dissipates through different types of turbulent systems. many of which are very, very interesting, like you and me, right? So I just find the whole place to be extraordinary. I mean, I wrote a post today on double loop learning, for example, double loop learning. And people say, well, what's double loop learning? A single loop learning is where you learn a task, say a word processor or some sort of app. You learn the app, and by the time you've learned how to work the app, you're no different than when you first started. You learned the skill. It's nice to have the skill. You learn the skill. You're not different. Double loop learning are the types of skills you engage in that as you get good at them, your axis of orientation to the world shifts and you become significantly different than when you started. And so double loop learning gives you the chance now, almost like a Swiss Army knife, to keep yourself moving forward. Most people get trapped in fear, in an automatic stimulus response box, if you like, that we get trapped in. Well, supposing you're trapped in it and you think, I don't like being trapped in it, well, then begin to engage in a double loop learning task that is guaranteed to evolve you out of it. So I think concepts like that becoming more and more important. The idea of I've been interested in this notion of evolution for a long, long time. Like,
What do you mean by evolution? Do you mean
okay.
Darwinism, some sort of it? Because there is evolution. If not, even if Mr. Darwin is wrong, I can assure you that there is evolution even in one's lifetime. I have
Yes.
seen I broke my right hand twice. I couldn't recover. I see how the cells evolve. I see how my brain evolves. So there is definitely, at least in us living human beings, there is an evolution during a lifetime, for better or for worse. It doesn't have to be in the positive sense.
Right. So the best way of explaining what I mean by evolution is, I mentioned before that I've been studying yoga since the age of 19 and a half. My yoga teacher is a guy called Eugene Halliday. And you can see me, he was a philosopher, he was a mystic, he was a very good painter and very, very, very good musician, even though he was paralyzed. And he taught Raja Yoga. And I remember asking him once, I said, Gene, what is evolution? And I hope, I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but these are meant to be different glasses, right? So there's a tumbler, there's a fancy glass, and then there's a cocktail glass, all right? And Gene said, imagine you put a piece of ice in this glass. It goes in and it touches in a little bit, it touches some areas, but not particularly, but it touches some areas. In this case, it can't even get into the glass because it's too big. And in this case over here, it's like the first case, it sort of fits, but it's really awkward, all right? So he said, most of us start like that. We're kind of rigid, we're a bit compulsive, we're driven by fear, we're not very adaptable. He said, now the process of evolution, the process of yoga is designed to melt these things, is to melt you intelligently. So now, if you fit perfectly into the tumbler, you fit perfectly into the glass, you fit perfectly into the other glass. And so what he was getting at was you need this flexibility. What you mean by evolution is an ability to be flexible in any situation. And there are exercises that we can do, that anyone can do, to make it more, to break up our mechanical behaviors, automatic, and inject more innovation and moment-to-moment liveliness into it. And so it's an endless, there is no end, there is no top to the mountain. There's no point in saying, oh, golly, I'm now so at the top of the mountain, or I've achieved it, No, it doesn't work like that, all right? It doesn't work like that. Excuse my Peter Sellers accent. I've got pride.
I will inject some thoughts here.
Please.
We know, biologically speaking, that we are about two-thirds water, about 70% water, and you know the philosophy of Tao. The
Yes,
main
yes.
idea behind it is probably like yogis. It's like to teach you how to be like water. Like you take the forms, you change the form. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's right. That's right. And one of the things that's not very well described in that model, but it's kind of hinted at, is the idea of a skip. A skip. If you imagine an old vinyl record, right, goes round and round and round, there's two ways of getting, you can either stay on the track, you can skip over, right? So the idea of the skip is that as you engage in these practices, your personality will do a skip. And you'll find, oh, something that really, really, really was troublesome to you yesterday now doesn't look like such a big deal today. And so it's discontinuous. In other words, you skip from you skip from an inevitable mechanical way of living into a new possibility. And I really like that idea that that we and that's what you want to provoke, right? I mean, it's a bit it is more than a bit scary, but it's very, very interesting. And that's another thing that I find about the planet, is just how interesting it is. It's very interesting. And I've discovered that, you know, if you play with it a little bit and you just have some fun, you actually cannot get to the end of its interestingness, because the more you magnify it, the more interesting it gets. So you think
Yes,
you've answered a question. It's like, oh my God,
100%.
you know, and so I know. So I came up with, okay, so this is silly. This is Dr. Saunders being silly. I came up with the law of interesting about a year ago, 2 years ago, the law of interesting. And roughly speaking, it says, given two equiprobable events, the path taken will be the most interesting. Right? It explains the reason why no two snowflakes are ever alike. It's because it's interesting. Now, think of it from God's perspective, and I don't mean any disrespect or anything. God has a problem, because God can't not be. God always has to be. I mean, God is trapped in infinity forever. Well, if you're in that situation, wouldn't you want to make it really, really interesting so that you weren't bored? So that now what you can do is you can tie laws of physics into consciousness. And so first law of consciousness, I'm not sure if I'm going to call it the first Saunders law of consciousness. I'm tempted by that. But it's the idea that the more you look at the universe, the more interesting and beautiful it becomes. And ladies and gentlemen, this experience you're experiencing, although it seems like it's going on forever, it's going to come to an end one day.
So that depends on how people define God. There's a lot of misunderstanding even within each culture. There is a lot of problems with this. There is a reductionist or religious fundamentalism which is taking over the world. Unfortunately, that's I can see there's in Muslim culture, Christian culture, especially our Western cultures. Yes, it is very interesting, and why I'm injecting this thought you have said it is interesting. What is the antidote of interesting is boredom. And boredom is one of the things I wanted to ask you about. That's modern boredom. It's a huge problem. People work and try to find free time, and when they have free time, they just go fall in social media, just scrolling, not even learning something new or enjoying it. This is boredom.
No.
This is a way of Yeah, that's the problem. Can you give us some thoughts between interesting and boredom and related to brain reprogramming?
Yes, yes. I think the place to start is you and I can see the problem, but we must tread delicately. You and I must tread gently. I have had two major yoga teachers or classes of yoga teacher training. One was the Eugene Halliday School. The other is a dehypnotist from Oregon. He's dead now. His name was Dave Dobson, a dehypnotist. And Dobson had a 40, 50-year practice on many, many people. And what he would say to us, his students, are, if they're not paying you and they didn't ask you, leave them alone. You must leave them alone. You cannot want for someone. You can't take a pee for someone. You can't have a headache for someone else. It's their own personal work. And if they don't embrace it, it's not your job, really. I mean, you can make fun of them, you can do things like that, but really, there is no point in proselytizing. You do not want to proselytize. You do not want to have adherence to a particular idea. I've been very, very fortunate. I've been on really friendly, chummy terms with whatever you think of as God or Allah since the age of 4.5. When I had all I can describe as a very nice visitation. And it's continued to that day. I didn't deserve it. I didn't ask for it. I was too young to know it was a possibility, but it's a possibility and I had that, but I pursued it, right? Not everyone's that fortunate. So I think the way that I deal with this boredom issue is I model what it's like not to be bored. I model it for them. All my posts, you'll see they're funny, they're interesting, they're insightful, and they're funny, and they're alive, and they're fresh. And I hope people, as they read my stuff, begin to go, how does he do it? Is he putting it on? How can he always be happy? And the answer is, happy is a habit. You want to be happy? Then
I even would say happy is a decision.
Yes, it's now we're getting into free will. That's going to be tricky. There seems to be two concepts of, okay, now we're going off into, okay, so here we go. Please raise your hand up and tap the top of your head. All right, good now. All right. You had to make a decision, Othmane, as to whether you were going to go along with it or not. But you did, and you tapped the top of your head. Unless you are extremely observant, you would not actually notice the decision process you went through. Tap top of your head. A lot of the patterns we use to function run outside of our conscious awareness, but that we can make ourselves aware of them and gain a conscious free will, if you like. That this is a huge topic. How would I offer it? When we decide to do something, often we run on automatic. We just do it, just like I got you to do your tap top of your head. You went on automatic. If you spend your life on automatic, you have no free will. You're just literally a machine. And that guy Harari is quite right. You're one of the useless eaters. Sorry, but you are. Now, those of us that want to get off our automatic discover that we can work with our brain to change ourselves. And one of the techniques I was taught by Dave Dobson a long time ago to talk to your brain is a technique called the eye roll. The eye roll technique is a way of consciously saying hello to your brain and then create a symbiosis between the two of you. You start off with the initiative. I'm going to say hello to my brain. I do it with a ritual. Basically, I'll calm myself with 3 very deep breaths, and then I'll close my eyes and roll my eyes up, look at my brain until I feel a bit of eye strain. Then I relax my eyes. That can only mean that Clifford wants to talk to Brian. And so now I've been practicing this technique for years and years and years. We have a very good working relationship. Not perfect, but very good. And I can ask Brian questions before I go to sleep at night. This is a puzzle, Brian. How do I solve that? I do my eye roll. Or during the day, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Weird stuff is sort of happening. Oh, Brian, what's going on? And Brian, once I ask him, well, 9 times out of 10, 19 times out of 20, let the input pop into my awareness. So, oh, okay, I was scared of that. Okay, all right, that was scary. But oh, but I'm not 9 anymore, you know. And so this updating, this de-automation then becomes itself more automatic, and we have more free will.
Oh, that's a huge topic. I will inject also my thoughts about autopilot. I'm a fan of autopilot, to be honest. There is a lot of things going on, and I'm a highly conscious individual since I was young, due to my personal experience with the religion. I had to go a little bit against the flow, because, for example, in my own culture, which is Islam, there is a very beautiful concept. It is ijtihad with E, and there is jihad, what we know. Ijtihad is very interesting because it is the ultimate pursuit of interesting. It does mean literally God is infinite.
Okay.
You can't describe God. It's beyond your awareness. You have to pursue interest in, find questions, and try to answer them. It's actually the antidote to religious fundamentalism. Unfortunately, religious fundamentalism is taken over all over the place, the Muslim world. But this concept is what brought the Arabic and Islamic cultures to flourish during early times. Yes, it is ijtihad, the concept. It's a very beautiful one. And about the autopilot, there is a lot of things I noticed from sport, for example, from swimming. I do swimming, biking, and you cannot be conscious about each of your moves. You have to turn on autopilot.
No.
It helps the brain.
No.
In many things you do, you have to be
Yes.
conscious that you are
Yes.
going into autopilot mode. That's what I mean. In decision making, you can also develop your
Yep.
brain to autopilot some decisions. For example, just to say no to some sort of food, just to say no to some things. You can automate that. You can reprogram your the brain to do that. Yes.
Yes, yes, you can. You're absolutely right. What you're really doing is you're sort of there's a branch of organization development where they say unfreeze, move, and then refreeze. So you unfreeze yourself from where you are, move yourself to where you need to be, and then harden on that new one, and then automate the stuff that you can automate. Always aware of that, you can do the process again anytime. But you're right, it's very handy. It's handy having a lazy brain.
Yeah, 100%. It's not about lazy because, you know, when you are using multiple languages, studying hard science, and living in the normal world, I'm not like Harari, you know, I'm living on the streets. I work with people, with Germans, with Danish, with French, with Moroccans. So my brain is functioning all the time. It's unlike Harari is just sitting in a room and thinking about such abstract ideas. I'm really in the real world. And when you are in the real world, it gets very hard for the brain because the brain uses a lot of energy. You can talk about this a few moments. Take time to explain to us. The brain needs energy and need to relax. Need to in my sport we talk about the iron mind. The mind does not break. It bends, but does not break. Yeah, how we can get to that?
Can I ask you a question about Sufism? Because I got interested in Sufism a long time ago, when, who was his name? He wrote a book on consciousness. And I was very much, I'll think of his name, he's very much influenced by, now he was a Sufi, his Sufic thought, he was Afghanistani. What I like about Sufi thought is it really, you know, a lot of it is made up of stories, really, really important stories. And one of the important stories is the idea that you've traveled a long way to your friend's house on a motorcycle, but you don't take the motorcycle into the house when you get to the front door. You now dismount. You now change your mode. You don't ride a motorcycle into your friend's living room. You get off the motorcycle when you've achieved that certain step. So it's the idea of different stories that make you think, that interrupt your pattern. I enjoy them. I just love to play with them. I guess what it comes down to is, as you begin to explore these fields, you discover that the Buddhists have got a lot to teach you, and then you discover that the Quietists have a lot to teach you, and then the Muslims have got a lot to teach you, and then the Agua Caliente tribe in Western California have got a lot to teach you. And what it does is it makes you really humble. It makes you realize there's just so much you do not know, so much you do not even suspect you could even know. And the only way to solve that is to travel widely in the world and engage widely in the world.
Yes, this is why I've said before I had a problem with the religious fundamentalism since I was a child, because I understood early on from Islamic scripture that ijtihad. Sufism is about ijtihad. Ijtihad is about the pursuit of interest, the pursuit of knowledge. So even if this knowledge is in China, or is in ancient Rome, or is in Greece, or somewhere, you have access to knowledge. And the more this is actually in this scripture. The more you pursue knowledge, the more you become near to God, the most basic sense. And you can only achieve yeah, harmony with the universe in scientific terms. You can only achieve this when you pursue interest in knowledge, interest in thoughts. You learn from everybody. This was for me very relevant as I was in Germany. As I was in Germany, because I was living in Mainz. Mainz is Gutenberg city, where all the books started. So I had huge access to books all the time. It's paradise for someone who is a hobby to pursue knowledge. Mainz is a beautiful city, highly recommended. Yes, yes, Sufism is probably uh, a substructure, but the main idea is here. So you take some knowledge from for example Muslims, or from science, because science is the most relevant one, but the scripture is highly relevant because it comes down to hundreds of generations. And when you combine those and you add your personal analysis, it does flourish. Yeah, it can only be good for all of us. Yeah. It is also the antidote to nihilism. That's my end analysis. When you pursue knowledge, you pursue interesting, your brain, thank you, thanks you. The brain loves your knowledge, by the way. The brain celebrates knowledge, and it gets in harmony with you. But then, yes, I go in by I mentioned nihilism. Nihilism is a big problem in today's world. Uh, it's a very big problem. And from it, I
Yes,
saw on your
they can't.
website,
Yeah. Uh,
I saw on your website about narcissism. Is narcissism a product of nihilism?
Oh God, I don't know. I really don't know.
But they are definitely related somehow.
Yeah, they might be. They might be. I think of them. I think of the narcissist as someone who's probably quite frightened and has built up some behavior patterns that protects them from the world around them. I think that's basically what has happened. Um, the idea of nihilism seems to me it's as if someone has come up, invented a product that was so seductive but so destructive that you just sold it to people. And I find I went through a nihilistic phase. Like, what's the point? Well, after a while, you realize the point is now. This is the point. The point is right this second, right this moment. You're here now. You've arrived. Have we arrived yet? Daddy, are we here yet? Yeah, you're here now. You're here. The fact that we drift off into a trance state and forget that we're here is neither here nor there. I mean, the fact is we are here and we are now. And practicing being more here now is a really sensible thing to do, because that way you miss less. Your life is going by on full speed. It's not that long. And you're going to, if you don't pay attention, you know, it's a decade goes by. Where did that go? Where did that go? Where did that go? Well, it's going. And you know, they talk about the supplies truck. You know, it's a Chinese. It's a joke about a Chinaman who can't say surprise, so he ends up saying supplies. And really, that's it. You don't want to be surprised when the supplies truck hits you. You want to be ready for it and not disappointed, or you will be you'll be very disappointed because you missed it. This is it. You're there. It's not a dress rehearsal. You're here right this very moment.
Yeah, that
And
is
if you're bored and
that is a good element you are talking about. So let's jump from there to victim mentality. You are here, so don't be a victim. How
Yes.
many of
No.
people in today's world, they feel like they are victims to society, to structures, to religion, oppression, to racism, to a lot of things. But let's talk about it in general sense, related to the brain. What is victim mentality and how can we
Yes.
reduce it at least?
You know, it's again, this goes back to if they didn't ask you and they're not paying you, leave them alone. Well, one of the things I do when I'm working with someone, and I've got someone at the moment who is a bit of a victim, plays a victim. Look what his dad did to him and what his mum did to him and so on. And after a while, you've got to ask the question of them, is this a badge of honor? Are you celebrating misery? Are you celebrating just how miserable you are and how awful it is and ain't it dreadful? Because I've got news for you. If victimhood and your broken wing is a badge of honor, then I don't want anything to do with the honor. And what you want people to do is just turn it around. Yeah, yes, you're here. Yes, it's awful. Yes, God is horrid. Yes, I know it's what are we going to do about it? Well, what you're going to do about it is your own mind. You're going to suck it up. You're quite right. You weren't meant to be here, but now you're here. So what are you going to do? And what I encourage all my clients to do is then this is the hero's journey or the heroine's journey. Even though you don't want to do it, like you said, you make yourself uncomfortable, you do it anyway. And you just keep trudging through it. And then you discover, oh, look, that's a little glimmer of gold. Wow, that's really good. And as you walk on, you think, oh, I can do that. And so you find the more you engage in the universe and you go on your path, you discover all sorts of things you never realized you had. the capacities you have. And so I model for people, you don't have to. I've been a victim. I've been covered in scabs. I had 20 years of it, and I did play the part of a victim. Then don't play it anymore. And you're quite right. You know, the point comes, I think the point, one of my favorite stories you'll see on my website is the story of Old Yeller. Did you watch that one, Old Yeller?
I love this. I love this.
Let's not spoil it for the audience. Okay.
We were talking about yes, yeah, victimhood. I am, yeah. You have said if they don't ask, don't tell them. I don't
Yeah.
almost never give people advice. I always tell people what I do personally. And if I had an
Yeah.
experience similar, I tell them, hey, I've done it this and this, and it didn't work that way, and I changed, I tried this. So, and I let them free. But in today's world, we are really, I started a few months by calling it cowards epidemic. We have, you have mentioned the hero's journey. I'm familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave.
Yes.
We have to go out from the cave of ignorance to go to the sun, let us be enlightened by the universe, by God, by Allah, by yeah, call it whatever you want.
Yes,
It's,
that's
at the
right.
end, I love the way Jeremy Griffiths puts this. You have a name for it, and I love this. Integrative meaning. Integrative meaning. This is like the original description of Islam, because Islam did not mention just Allah. It did give at 99 names for God. So
Yes.
it's like to give people it's not that simple. It's very complicated. You cannot understand it. Jeremy Griffiths named it integrative meaning. And we fulfill ourselves when we pursue interesting, when we pursue knowledge, our brain functions, we fulfill our lives. I wanted to share with you a small video. I will share it.
Okay.
Can you see it?
No, it's, oh, here it comes. Okay, yes. It's
okay. This video, I'm just having a stick, 1 meter wooden stick, and try to balance it with my feet.
Okay.
As an exercise for my nervous system.
Yes.
Because I understand, because I had a very severe back injury, 2016, and I lost control of my leg, my feet. So I had a long way to restore everything. Now I'm very, very, 100% okay. I can do a lot of things. And this is a simple way, for example, how to engage the body and complicate the whole nervous system.
Yes, it's lovely. It's a beautiful example. Precisely. Well done. Good show. Bravo. 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 Yeah. Bravo. You know, I think the thing that I'd like your listeners, your viewers to realize is you don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of expensive equipment to make these changes, to do these things. For instance, take your cap and just take it sideways and put it over one ear. Just turn your cap sideways. That's it. Now, sideways, so it's over an ear. There. Now, say something. Say hello. Say anything you like. Check.
Hello, Mr. Saunders. How are you?
Okay. Can you hear it reflected? Can you hear it? If you move the oh, see. Now say something. So adjust the cap so that you can hear it.
Hello?
Okay.
Yes, I can hear it. I can hear it reflected. Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, just a little bit. That's called side tone. Side tone.
Yeah.
And most of the time we do not hear how we sound. We don't hear it. It comes through bone conduction, and we We think that's what we sound like on the outside. But we don't sound like that. So often when people see a video of this, I don't sound like that. Yes, you do. You sound like that. A way to sweeten your voice, a way to be better at hearing what you're doing in the same way as you had the balancing pole on your leg, on your foot, which is brilliant, by the way.
It
is
took
to actually,
times. It took times and efforts. I am experimenting with a lot of things. That's just one tool. I just wanted to share it because it's
I love
very
it.
good for the vertebrae, you know, for the nervous system, because you need a
Yeah,
link
I
to
believe
control your feet. You need to balance your hands,
Yep.
and the best way to do it is with complex sports. Not
Yes.
easy sports with the swimming, like biking. These are very, very good ones. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. What? Where are we at? What would you? What do we want? Do we need to talk about next?
Yes. Just yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. We only have 2 minutes and a half left. This is if we start a complicated subject, we will not be finishing it. So, Mr. Sanders, thank you very much for. Oh, this is too loud. I will repeat this. Mr. Sanders, thank you very much in helping us getting more knowledge and ultimately self-knowledge. Because when we are learning about our brain, we are learning about ourselves. So at the end, when we are pursuing
Yeah.
knowledge, pursuing interesting, we are learning a lot about ourselves. And that's the whole thing about the brain reprogramming. We get in touch with our own brain.
Yeah.
Talk about your website and the relevant things
Yes.
for my audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm the Brain Reprogramming Doctor. So you can find me under www.thebrainreprogrammingdoctor.com. And if you're interested in the topics that Othmane and I have talked about, I would say start with the science and look at some of the technologies. They're easy to understand, and they're almost like a motorcycle, a tool to help you function better. You don't have to have them, but they're a great on-ramp to this whole notion of evolution, of becoming appropriate to whatever the task is. And if you like the idea of your mind skipping, skipping all of the unfortunate stuff and getting yourself on more salubrious world, then give me a call or write to me. You'll find on the website there's a contact me form. Just let's have a chat.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.